Gambling can also be considered as a means to avoid penalties. Gambling can also be considered as a means to avoid IRS penalties. Understand that, because gambling can be considered to be a debilitation, a medical, a psychological condition. It's a condition that in many situations reduces a person to a point that he or she cannot conduct their lives reasonably and normally. In other words, it's on the same level that alcohol addiction, that drug addiction, or any other kind of addiction operates at when it considers being used as a means to avoid IRS penalties. And in my practice, and over all of the years, it's amazing to me to see how many people are addicted gamblers and how many of them fail to acknowledge it and as a result continue to get bombarded by IRS delinquent taxes and IRS penalty and interest challenges, and just it continues on and on and on. Now, many times when an individual had those problems, it continues for so long that they then have to review each of those specific years to determine whether the IRS assessed penalties for each of those years. And by the way, the IRS will. But once that addiction, once that need to gamble is overcome, and as that person tries to get his or her life back, she or he can ask that all those penalties be removed. All of them. So, the first thing is you have to get your transcript and you have to see what it is that the IRS has assessed against you. If there are tax returns that are still due, you have to immediately take the steps to prepare those tax returns and get them filed. There's no doubt about it. And as we've seen in some other situations already, it's not uncommon for a person who was addicted to gambling, particularly gambling, to have other similar challenges with the IRS. For instance, many times gamblers do not file their tax returns on time, or if they do not include all of the income that's going to be reported to the IRS. Much of the income that's reported to the IRS as a consequence of people gambling are the 1099s that the casinos issue. And those 1099s, as you may know if you have gambled yourself and won, only report the gross winnings that you've enjoyed, and it doesn't report your losses. So, in a situation where a person is addicted to gambling, the IRS will receive a 1099 that indicates that the individual won a very large sum of money. And yet, because of that addiction, in my experience, it's clear that they also lost that and a whole lot more. So they really didn't have the net income that's reported to the IRS. Because of that, I'm suggesting to you now that if you have a gambling issue and if you have a penalty issue, that you can work through it in the way that I've already described, and that you also now know that you will need another digital tax attorney set that deals with how to address the 1099 issue in a gambling situation. And we have a digital tax attorney set that specifically focuses on that. because the problem is so rampant in time and also in the number of taxpayers that are affected. But even if you don't have the 1099 problem, work to reduce the penalties and use our petition. And if you have a consultation with us, be sure to go through your personal facts and we will help you understand how you want to make that presentation and what documents to include. Thank you.